I wanted to take a few minutes to show you an example of one of the pieces that I designed. In this case, only 10 minutes because that's the YouTube limit. This is a course that I designed for a pharmaceutical company specifically targeted to pharmaceutical sales reps. The course is set up to have an open menu structure to allow the learner to explore any of the activities they want in any order. We'll take a look at the intro first. The introduction introduces the three different elements of effective presentation skills: preparation, nonverbal, and verbal communication. We came upon the analogy of using card decks and individual cards to help the learner to be able to build memory towards the end of each of the components of all three presentation tools. Clicking and dragging a card to the target allows the learner to explore the do's and don'ts to each of these elements. Should the learner take the time to explore each of these cards right now, it will help them in the upcoming activities to find the correct answers and to answer with confidence. Let's take a look at the first activity. In nonverbal communication, the learner is observing a presenter speaking with the manager of a local gym. The presenter is trying to talk to the manager about signing up for a fitness program that she's offering. The presenter's decided what she wants to say, but it's the learner's job to take a look at the nonverbal communication options down below and decide which of these three options would best accompany the thing that the presenter wishes to say. In this case, because the presenter is talking about the three benefits that scored the highest, using the numbering nonverbal tool is the best choice. We get to see the manager's response and the words that he speaks back to the presenter to help us understand the impact of the nonverbal choice that we made. Also down below is an impact meter that plots a point that helps us to be able to see over time how well we've done with our choices. Next, we see another communication snippet that the presenter wishes to share, and we need to decide again from a new set of three cards what will be the best tool to use to accompany the communication. Numbering worked well last time, but this time it confuses the manager because it doesn't really line up with the thing that the presenter is trying to say. And we notice on the impact meter that we plotted low. The coach also gives us feedback that helps us understand why using fingers to count out isn't such a great choice given the things that the presenter is trying to say. Let's take a look at the next activity. Inside verbal communication, our presenter is now standing up in front of a medium-sized audience, and the learner's job is to listen to what the presenter has to say and try and find the things that were done ineffectively. Just as in all the other activities within the course, listening and critically listening to a presenter is a great way to be able to hone in learners' awareness and presentation skills.
As you can see here on this graph, sales are up 15% overall.
If we heard something, we click the pause button. If we're not quite sure what it is, we can actually drag the scrub bar back and listen again.
Sales are up 15% overall.
The presenter did something with her voice inflection there. Was that a good thing or a bad thing? If we decide it's a bad thing, we click on the button and look through our cards until we find the one that matches the thing that she did incorrectly. In this case, it was inflection.
but our gains have been offset by higher operating costs, which is putting a drag on our net revenue growth.
Something that the presenter did is putting this audience member to sleep. Let's go back and listen again.
Which is putting a drag on our net revenue growth.
The presenter seems uncomfortable with what she just said, and she's doing something in her verbal communications that is ineffective. Was it volume? Pacing and tempo? What is pacing and tempo? If we click on the information button, we can re-review the elements of the card. In this case, pacing and tempo is what she did ineffectively.
That covers our financials year to date. Now I think I'd like to shift our focus to the progress we've made in our activities in the third quarter.
Something else was done there near the end that wasn't very good. Let's scrub back to listen.
I think
The presenter interjected uhs and ums, which in this course we refer to as verbal filler. Let's flag that.
I'd like to shift our focus to the progress we've made in our activities in the third quarter, okay?
When we reach the end, the coach prompts us that we can either replay the whole thing in case we think we might have missed something, or review his feedback. Reviewing the coach's feedback allows us to look at the flags that were placed and the cards that we selected. For this first choice, the green flag represents that we made a good choice, and the coach's feedback lets us know why our choice was good and what we need to do in the real world to be able to avoid inappropriately applying inflection to our presentations. We can move through each of the choices that we made, and when we reach the end, we can move to the next scene. In the next scene, the presenter does something similar. It's standing in front of the same audience, and it's the learner's job to do the same thing as they did in this segment, but with different challenges and different tools used ineffectively. Let's take a look at the next activity. The next activity, called Connecting with the Audience, is the learner's first opportunity to be able to use the 3 elements of effective presentation skills. The way that they'll use them in this situation is from a critical lens, similar to the way they did in verbal communications. Let's take a look at how this works.
Thank you, Jack. It is good to see all of you again. I know that when we last met to talk about this program, I wasn't very successful in expressing the real benefits of this program over our existing offerings.
The counter indicates that there was one item in this segment that was either something done well or something done poorly. In this situation, exploring the scene reveals that the presenter did something. If we click on her, we get our first question. Here, Mary chose to point at the audience. There's a better way to acknowledge the audience. Choose a presentation category that the presenter did something ineffectively from. Pointing at the audience wouldn't necessarily be preparation, and the feedback affirms this. Pointing at the audience is nonverbal. Now, from our selection of nonverbal cards at the bottom, the learner's job is to drag and drop the card onto the target that represents the thing that the presenter should have done instead of pointing at the audience. We can now either replay the scene or move on to the next scene. In the interest of YouTube time, I have to stop the video here, but the next segments contain additional challenges where audience members might fall asleep, begin talking to each other, checking their cell phones, and other kinds of interruptive behavior. The learner has to take a look at these behaviors and determine what the presenter may be doing or not doing that's causing this to happen within the audience.